Just like the Mexicans are known for their cigar, the French for their wine, the Germans for their cars, the Italians have over the years made a bold statement when it comes to men's official wear. We took some time to explore the culture behind a brand's success.
My name is Amin Premje. I'm a businessman, and my fashion interest started from the 80s. Just about the time when I was getting married. My wife was very much interested into fashion, and we opened our first boutique at Yaya Center called Zeds. And we used to bring in clothing from Thailand. And we then opened our second shop, and we got the franchise for Tinga Tinga. At that time, the clothing business was very lucrative. We then ventured into sports clothing. And I got a franchise from Italy called Lotto Sportswear. And this is where my Italian connection started. We had our first franchise of Lotto in 1990. We thought that it was a very interesting distributor. There used to be others like Reebok, Adidas, and all that, but those are very traditional, straightforward clothing. But Lotto brought in colors, Lotto brought in designs, Lotto brought in a different dimension rather than the old straightforward white polos or white skirts or white shoes. They brought in colored shoes, and that's what has made this industry today be colorful because of Italian design, Italian fashion. In 1995, we got the license to open the first Forex bureau in Kenya. So I closed my clothing business and went into the Forex business. But something in us was missing, and 2 years ago, my wife and me decided that we need to get back into fashion. So I called my Italian friends, and they said that instead of buying ready-made clothes and opening a boutique for ready-made clothes, why don't you consider made-to-measure and bespoke tailoring? Two years ago, that's where our Salvatore de Francisca brand started. We got connected to a tailor called Salvatore de Francisca. Salvatore is now 87, 88. But he started his tailoring business at the age of 12, learning from age 5. And as he became very good at his work, he started dressing up film stars, celebrities. Omar Sharif is one of them. Pierce Brosnan is one of them, James Bond. And later on, he went to dress up the whole Madrid football club. So it gave us a lot of confidence that we were dealing with somebody who was very knowledgeable, who was a fashion icon, and who really knew his job. The only challenge was that made-to-measure and bespoke tailoring was something new in Kenya 2 years ago. There were people coming in from Hong Kong and some people coming in from London, but it was either very expensive or the best materials were not being used. Salvatore then introduced us to Loro Piana. Now, Loro Piana is the world's best fabric manufacturer. They are based in Italy, and last year, Loro Piana was 80% bought out by the Louis Vuitton group, the LV group. So what we then embarked on was that we got the tailors from Italy who had their workshops in Sicily. We then made a deal with Loro Piana that we would be the exclusive buyers in East Africa. So we have the best tailors, we have the best fabrics. Now what we had to do was to educate the Kenyans that do not buy a ready-made suit and buy a made-to-measure bespoke suit. Bespoke clothing is something like a car being made from scratch. So you got to fabricate the whole body, you got to put the right engine parts, so everything that fits a gentleman according to his body. Then the tailor brings the garment half finished, and then he starts making the adjustment according to the gentleman's body. He then takes it back to Italy, and on the second fitting, he now makes it perfect. And if the man or the client has put on a little bit of weight, it can still be adjusted. That's called bespoke tailoring. So you need a couple of fittings before you get your properly immaculate fabricated suit. And everything is handmade. So there's no glue used, all the fibers are natural. Sometimes men will notice that when they press their coats, it becomes shiny. The reason why it becomes shiny is because they've used glue and not natural fibers. So when heat goes on top of fabric and glue underneath, the shininess comes out. That shows you that it's not a good made suit. The fabric is so delicate that only the Italian tailors who have been using it for years and years know how to stitch it. In our line of work, we need to source for people who would enjoy or who would appreciate such clothing. So this could be bankers, businessmen, politicians, anyone who has a flair for fashion and who can afford. And we have fabrics that range from 100% wool all the way going to 210, going to 240% pure wool. Now, a 240% pure wool is only made from the vicuna. The vicuna is an animal from the South America which is very rare to find because its fiber is very, very thin. And a suit of that fiber, of that fabric, would cost not less than 20,000 euros. Interestingly, there are only 20 to 24 fabrics made once a year which these suits can be made from. So accordingly, we then show the client the fabric. He then chooses the fabric. We then show him the styles, that what would you like. So once the client agrees on the style, agrees on the fabric, we then tell him what it will cost him. If he agrees, he has to pay a deposit. Then the tailor starts taking his measurements. Now that process is a half an hour procedure, so as to speak. So the tailor then puts his instrument on the body of the client. Now when I mean by instrument, that means he puts the particular style of the suit on the gentleman and then starts making the adjustments, putting the pins and all that. Once the client says, I'm happy in this sort of fit, the tailor then starts taking the measurements. There are about 27 to 30 measurements of a man that needs to be taken to measure a bespoke suit. For every suit, that they make, they only have their label here of the initials. There is no label here to say Salvatore de Francisca or no, because it's made for them. You can make out by the design, number one, and normally in every blazer or trouser there is a law that a production slip. This will tell you when it was produced, made in where, what sort of fabric and everything. Bottom line is that when you walk in this store, what we have done is that we've got every other accessory to go with the suit, which is again original Italian. We now have embarked on a new collection which has just come in, and we are now working towards Valentine's. So if you know the James Bond, the Spectre collection, and we are now bringing in clothes that will dress up someone like James Bond. We've now started a new line as well called the Cubavera collection, and this is clothing made for the coastal and the warm regions. Our 2 years in business in this particular line has been educating the market. What we have got to realize that the Kenyans are looking for nice clothing. They're looking for everyday clothes. So they would want a nice blazer which they can mix and match with a trouser. They would like a nice shirt, a nice pocket square. So our intention for the future is to have small specialty shops all over Kenya that will provide all the Italian products that we are talking about. And in this shop, we will be then advertising our made-to-measure service. It's time to look away from big names and big labels and work on something that fits your body and your style. And if that's what you can afford and you can appreciate, then come over to our shop.